An individual is considered fully vaccinated after receipt of one dose?
Yeah.
Oh, of a single dose, sorry. I was like, yeah, single dose, yes.
I'll get the cards from Rodney. But we can get started.
How are you?
I'm surviving. Just like the rest of the world. Here comes Ron.
It's all the commotion out there.
All agenda items.
I know. That doesn't work, does it? All right.
Oh, Lord, and somebody's videotaping it.
Oh, do we have the police here?
Yeah, there's two officers.
Well, they're filming what's ever going on out there.
Hi, Mark. How are you? Yeah, we should start. Close those doors, do you think? What?
Why are the
Well, they probably are.
Here we go. God, give me strength.
That's 701. Let's get started. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to. Are we on here? I don't think this is on. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Tuesday, October 24th, 2021 Parkland School Board meeting to order, and if everyone would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Kester, are there any reports of executive session?
There are none to report.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 4, special presentation. We have 2 tonight. Parameters resolution presentation by the Parkland financial team, and then a presentation on the health and safety plan. So I'll turn this over to John Mignon.
Thank you, David. This evening in front of you is a parameters resolution that, if you approve, will give the finance team direction to proceed with a bond refunding that could possibly save the school district $400,000. The board is very familiar with these parameters resolutions. This board has saved the community and the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars over the years with refundings. So this is the next step toward hopefully saving more money for this community, the students, and the school district. We have our bond counsel here this evening. He is a part of our financial team that has worked together for the last 15 years. And I'm going to introduce Jens to go over the parameters resolution. And at that point in time, feel free to ask Jens any questions you may have. Jens?
Thank you, John. Good evening. Again, my role is bond counsel, working as part of the team together with your solicitor, administration, and financial advisors to put together the documentation necessary to have this refinancing opportunity. And a lot of you recall that that process begins with the adoption of a resolution that authorizes the transaction to take place. It is in accordance with state law known as the Local Government Unit Debt Act. This resolution that is in front of you as part of your agenda was advertised under that particular law. It would be, if it's adopted, it would be advertised again and filed with the state as part of a process to have the debt approved. As you recall, it's called a parameters resolution, meaning that the resolution contains some numbers that aren't actually final yet. They're maximums, including the $12 million number that you see in the caption is the maximum amount of bonds that could be issued. It's likely they would be less than that, but because the law also requires that we put the maximum amount of principal that could come due in each year, the financial folks put a cushion in each of the year. When it adds up, it turns into a number like that. But nevertheless, the most important number that's in this resolution can be found in the whereas clauses. It's really at the top of page 2, which says that the minimum savings required to proceed with the transaction must be at least $400,000. That's net of all costs and net of any impact from state reimbursement. So that's all net local effort for the benefit of the taxpayers. So that's the target. Parkland has been successful over the years in exceeding these targets, and we're certainly hoping that'll happen again. But what this does is it creates the flexibility for your underwriter and financial advisors to pick the appropriate day to go into the market and try to achieve the lowest possible interest rates. So I believe that will be happening within the next week or two, where those rates will be established. With the benefit of this resolution, we can move with that and then communicate with the administration to coordinate those efforts and confirm that indeed the savings target has been achieved. This document authorizes all the necessary actions and documents to make the refinancing possible. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the board? Linda?
I have a question.
Sure.
I don't recall what the date was specifically, but the bonds are callable in February? Does that mean that, how does that timing work with your 2 weeks to establish the rates?
Well, it's a good question on a couple levels. One is tax laws were changed a few years ago to require that we can't issue a bond issue to refinance another unless the old bond issue can be repaid within 90 days. That's from the closing on this bond issue. So we will certainly have that date matched up, and we are within that window to make that happen. As far as these bonds, and you've been lucky with this constant reduction in interest rates over time, typically bond issues of this size of the district have been able to be refinanced after 5 years. So who knows, maybe in 2026, these bonds can also be refinanced. Right now we're looking at the Series A of 2017. That's the ones we are able to refinance now.
Thank you.
Any other comments? And just as a reminder too, for everybody that, these refinancings were not extending the time that the debt is outstanding. The original due date for the 2017 bonds, this refunding, if it happens, will adhere to those dates as well.
Exactly. The savings are purely the result of lower interest rates, not with the tinkering of the payments.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to item 4.02, presentation on the revised health and safety plan. Dr. Madsen.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. Good evening, school board members and community members. just want to provide an update to the school board and community as it relates to our health and safety plan for this upcoming school year. Just going to have to keep turning around a little bit to make sure I'm on the right slides. But the administration wanted to quickly recap the need for this update and subsequent vote for this evening. The plan was approved on July 27th, which provided administration the ability to modify the plan to fully review guidance and data in real time. Thank you for the board for their foresight in regards to this, as we didn't necessarily know exactly what was going to happen as of July 27th, and then what would happen subsequently to this date. And so here we are. And on Thursday, we sent out a communication to the community with that revision to the health and safety plan, which is on the agenda for this evening for vote. Basically, there are three main components to this plan that have been changed since July 27th. The one that probably has the most substantive change is our face covering requirements. We also updated our building and department plans. Those are linked and posted within the plan and on the websites for everyone. And we also made some changes to decision-making for our field trips, which align exactly to the same tiered decision-making matrix that we were going to use for face coverings. So why do we make this change now? A couple reasons. First and foremost, as we've said from the very beginning, the health and safety and welfare of our students, staff, and families has been our #1 priority. Second to that has been the ability to maintain and open schools up for 5 days a week instruction. As we mentioned on the 27th, time and the virus is going to dictate how this operates and what this looks like for every school district, including Parkland. The team has worked very hard to make decisions that are driven by data and are not open-ended. This was a crucial point we discussed in mid-July. Any changes to the face coverings, decisions that the district was going to make, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't open-ended and that we had evidence to support moving in one direction or another. This gives us the parameters to help make decisions moving forward. There is light at the end of this. We are in a better place than we were last year, and the decision to implement these changes is not something that any of us are happy with. But our focus has to be on the 5 days a week in-person instruction and the health and safety of our students, staff, and families at this time. A little more specifics on why now. Well, we look at the data very closely, and Lehigh County has been in a high substantial spread for at least 2 weeks, and before that, they had moved from a moderate level spread into substantial. That's become very important as we look at some of these metrics. We also know that COVID has spread very considerably, the new Delta variant, especially in children. It's something we've been working on, we've been looking at, and our healthcare providers, our pediatricians in the local area have noticed an increase in children, not just nationally, but also locally. We noticed that districts across the country had opened up and had to subsequently move to all virtual. That's something we want to try to learn from and avoid that mistake if we can. And once again, our local health providers have been unanimous in their guidance to school districts to use universal maskings as we start the school year. And that guidance has not changed, and actually was strengthened over the past month. And finally, the quarantining parameters have also changed slightly. And so one of the things that's really critical is we want to have students avoid missing class time as much as possible. And using masks properly can help avoid some of that potential quarantine for kids, even if they're within 3 to 6 feet of each other. Whereas in the past, if they were within 6 feet, even masked, they would have to quarantine if there was a case associated to where they were. Now with masks, if both are wearing masks, we could potentially avoid a widespread quarantining situation for our students. So what does this matrix look like? Parkland School District had developed a decision-making tool in partnership with St. Luke's and in consultation with Lehigh Valley Health Network. This is an evidence-based approach. It's designed to assist administration with our change that may be needed to our face covering policy and effectively communicate to the community. Our goal has always been to remain 5 days a week in-person instruction and medical-based decisions based on medical expertise. And that's exactly what this matrix allows us to do. We believe that face covering requirements are a priority mitigation strategy across all of these tiers. Individual schools or the entire district may transition between these tiers depending on the metrics set forth. Movement amongst tiers levels will be considered after 2 consecutive weeks from the indicated change of the criteria. Immediate changes may be necessary as a result of any potential outbreaks within any one building. So again, there's 3 tiers basically moving from low risk tier 1 all the way up to high risk tier 3. As you can see, they do become more restrictive from tier 1 all the way up to tier 3. We did break up our K-8 students and 9 to 12. That's solely based on 6th grade. 6th grade, we know that that age group does not have the ability to be vaccinated, number 1. And number 2 is there are mixed classes at our middle schools, and having different requirements for those 2 buildings just didn't seem feasible at this time. And that's why they are put together in tiers 1, 2, and 3, and then our high school is different. Again, we hope that this allows us to make some decisions based on the data and the numbers that are presented to us. And it's not something that we just made a blanket statement of we're going to have masks and it's going to be universal with no end date in sight. We can use this tool whether it's per building or throughout the entire district. This point was really important to us. We heard it from the community, we heard it from the board, we heard it from our staff, our pandemic team. We didn't want to repeat some of the lessons from last year. And even though the guidance from CDC had been universal masking for everyone, even on July 27th, we really took a measured approach as we entered into this. And we feel that this tool now helps to create a solution that, again, we don't love the fact that we have to go to masking, but we do think it's the appropriate step at this time based on the data we have available to us. So right now, currently, Parkland will open up in tier 3. The first 2 metrics are the ones we're keeping the closest eye on right now because they're really the only 2 that we have available. And as of today, Lehigh County had 164 cases per 100,000 and a PCR rate of 9.37. So that first metric puts us into this idea of where tier 3 comes into place universally for Parkland School District. The good news is that even through some of our summer camps, our athletic events that we've been having, our sports teams, we've had very low cases in the Parkland School District with any of our kids and staff throughout this summer. That's good news. Hopefully that trend continues as we open up school. That will be a data point that we will certainly look at in addition to the metrics I stated above. And as far as vaccination rates, we know Lehigh County has a very high overall vaccination rate for the state, which is excellent. We're pleased with that. We believe that our staff has a very high vaccination rate, and it's hard to determine exactly where our students are right now. So that is something that we certainly are continuing to promote for any individual, any staff member, students who are eligible to consult with their medical providers and get the vaccination if they can. So again, this is not new. These are the metrics that we've used all the way through since the beginning. Any federal and state mandates that have come down to us, we obviously have to comply with those, and we look at that. We know where the governor stands at this point, and even the PA Department of Health and the CDC. We hopefully understand now where our local medical providers and the guidance that they've provided us numerous times throughout this summer in association to some of the decisions we should be making. And we continue to look at vaccination rates, and then certainly as school opens next week, our building cases and our community cases across all of our buildings. What are some of our next steps? Well, we're certainly going to monitor any guidance that we get from above, any national or state guidance, mandates, recommendations, requirements, any of those words that you choose to use right now. We're not sure that any of those changes will happen. We did get a few changes from PDE 2 weeks ago, which was another reason why taking a more measured approach in late July was the avenue to take, to have that foresight to do that. Fortunate that the board had the ability to look at that and look longer term than just what we had in the summer. We're going to really take a close eye on Parkland-specific data. That was something that has been on a topic for us all the way through this summer and as we continue into this school year. That it's not just one piece. It's not one piece of advice, not one piece of recommendation. It's a numerous things that we're going to put together to make the best decision that we see is fit to keep our students safe and keep them in the buildings. We're going to continue to encourage vaccinations as we can for anyone who's eligible. We'll monitor any community spread as defined by the CDC. And we're going to evaluate these metrics and this data every 2 weeks to make a determination for how we move forward. So again, to recap, as everyone here knows, our recommendation is to implement this matrix into the health and safety plan. And from there, gives the administration the ability to look at these metrics, look at the data as we move forward to make determinations. And I think everyone probably in this room wants that determination to start to be less restrictive as we move forward. And hopefully, for everyone, especially the kids, that data plays itself out. And we'll have, obviously, our case-specific data for Parkland, and we'll continue to monitor everything that's coming across the valley and the state and be able to bring additional recommendations as we need to. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Madsen. Does anybody on the board have any questions or comments for Dr. Madsen? No? All right, thank you. We'll move on to item number 5, public comment on agenda items. I will make a few statements prior to starting the call out for the people who have submitted requests to comment. Before we begin tonight, I'd like to go over and review again the board policies and regulations that govern public comment at board meetings. The applicable policies are policies 903 and 903.1. The applicable administrative regulation is 006 AR-0. They are all available for review on the district's website. I'll now go over the relevant portions of the policy 903. Again, not reading the entire policy, just the relevant portions. Public participation shall be permitted only as indicated on the order of business in the board procedures and at the discretion of the presiding officer on a given issue. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface their comments by an announcement of their name, address, and group affiliation if appropriate. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. Any statement shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members individually. The presiding officer may interrupt or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Request any individual to leave the meeting when the person does not observe reasonable decorum, and call a recess or an adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting as to warrant such action. No placards or banners will be permitted within the meeting room without prior approval. Reading the relevant portions, again, not the whole thing, of the Administrative Regulation 006 AR-0 guidelines. The opportunity to speak at a public board meeting is open to all individuals residing in the Parkland School District. All residents wishing to speak to the board must complete the yellow Request to Address the Board of School Directors form found at the sign-in table. The form must be completed prior to the start of the school board meeting. Once completed, the form should be given to the assistant superintendent or superintendent. The school board president will call those individuals that request to speak at the appropriate time. Each individual is limited to 3 minutes to address the school board. And now the relevant portions of policy 903.1. Again, just the relevant portions, not the entire policy. Policy 903.1, use of electronic recording devices during board meetings. Recording devices such as cameras, cell phones, electronic tablets, tape recorders, and other similar recording devices are permitted at public board meetings under and pursuant to the following rules. Persons must notify the assistant superintendent of his or her intent to use a recording device prior to its use. An individual's right to record will be limited or forfeited if there is a material interference with the ability of board members, administrators, school officials, school employees, or others to participate or observe during the public board meeting. Audio recording devices can be used from an individual's seat or from a location designated by the board president. Video recording devices can be used from locations designated by the board president. So if your handheld device doesn't block the view of others, you can remain at your seat and use the device. Otherwise, we'll need to move to another location as instructed by school staff or security. So thank you for your attention to those matters. We'll start with the public comments, and the first person is Audrey Ettinger. And again, as mentioned last week, please refrain your clapping when the people are speaking. We cannot hear them, and we would like to hear all of their comments and all of your comments. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I'm Audrey Ettinger, 3217 West Highland Street in Allentown. I am the parent of a current sophomore, and I've spoken to you the last several meetings, not only as a parent, but also as a professional scientist. And I really just came tonight to say thank you for doing the right thing, for following data, right? Data is not about belief. Science is not about belief. It's about method. We've done the right work to get this data. You've done the right decision, made the right decision to follow the data and do what we need to do to keep our kids in school. That's all we want as parents, as for our children to be in school 5 days a week. We all hate wearing masks. This is the way to get us to a point where we don't have to do that, so we stop passing this virus from one person to another. So thank you, and I appreciate that you're doing this. The one thing I would love to see is a dashboard of the cases across the schools as we move forward, so that we can really be confident that we're not seeing spread in this school. I know that that's difficult to do, but some districts are doing it, and that would be a great change. But other than that, I'm really pretty satisfied with this. So thank you very much for your hard work, and I'm sorry that you're getting so much verbal abuse about this. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Melissa Uff.
Sure, the protocol. My name is Melissa Uff, 3348 Shankweiler Road, Allentown. I saw your first two Parkland speakers take their masks off, so I guess we're okay to do that when we're talking. So we're very consistent. So I understand that the health and safety policy was provided by St. Luke's, who really must think this is a hell of a pandemic, because they're firing the doctors and nurses that are not vaccinated. So if they really needed their help, they'd keep them employed. They also sponsored Music Fest, where 1.1 million people gathered, closed circles. And again, if our cases are up, why would they sponsor an event like that? So all of this goes into our kids being masked and then coming into schools. The health and safety plan that you provided doesn't have a light at the end of the tunnel. Those metrics don't mean anything, because asymptomatic kids are going to get tested and they're going to pop. Include in your metrics the cases where the kids are hospitalized and seriously ill. Those metrics from the same American Academy of Pediatric report that you had up there show no rise. It was way worse when COVID started. It has been down, it's not increased. So you can make the story fit any narrative. If you show half the data, show the other half. Show the kids that are hospitalized, show the kids that are seriously ill. There's gonna be kids that are gonna get sick. That's kids. The virus is gonna keep coming. It's not gonna die. We're always gonna have this. If kids are seriously injured or seriously sick, I would think differently. They're not. Nothing that anybody has said, including the very powerful speech given last board meeting by the high school senior, that said masks matter. They matter to these kids. They're difficult to learn. They're difficult to hear. I can't communicate with my son in a mask. He can't learn. I would also like to thank, I don't remember which board member it was, but somebody said that it was very impactful for this board to have children leave and go to charter schools because it affected your pocketbooks. So I didn't realize that, and I appreciate that you brought that to our attention. Since charter schools seem to be one of the only things that's on your radar, I'm going to be pulling my son out from Parkland. He will not attend this year. Until this circus is over and you start looking at metrics that matter, my son will not attend. And I was looking forward to having him attend the very same school that I was once proud of. Our kids deserve better than this. Show metrics that matter. It doesn't matter if kids have it. They're not impacted. Put some stats up on the board that have some meat to them. Don't just run around worrying that kids are going to get it. They are. It's a virus. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Brittany Zimmerman.
Good evening. My name is Brittany Zimmerman, and I reside at 411 Tamarack Drive in Allentown. I didn't speak at last week's school board meeting because I felt that there were others who would share my same message, and there were. But this week, after you took my choice away from me, I knew I had to speak out. I must speak out for my sons, Connor and Riley. I must speak out for my fellow parents whose choice was also taken from them. And I must speak out for all of those parents who might not think they have a voice. But you have removed my choice within the confines of these walls, but you have not removed all of my choices. There are options, and I will speak to them in a minute. Last week, many of us sat in this very auditorium with a mask-optional audience. Our very own assistant superintendents were not masked, along with other staff from the district. But within days of that meeting, we've allowed the school board to decide otherwise, forcing all of those in Parkland to mask up. A school board comprised of people who do not work in this district, who more than likely do not have school-aged children in this district, who likely do not have medical degrees, who likely do not think for themselves and instead allow agendas from local hospitals, Parkland attorneys, and teachers' unions to be their guides. It is not your job to make medical decisions for my children. It is mine, it always has been, and it always will be mine. Last week, there was a passionate young woman, a Parkland senior, who bravely stood up and spoke about her concerns with masking. She spoke about how her friend had mask particles in her lungs and that she was worried about those repercussions. Instead of considering her valid concerns and figuring out whether this was a widespread concern amongst your students, you quickly dismissed what your own student had to say, citing against her. Shame on you. I have a 13-year-old son who is heavily involved in baseball and has been over the entire COVID season. He has played on multiple teams at a time with an upwards of around 30 kids. They have sweat, jumped, yelled, cheered, all right next to their peers. They have stayed in hotels together, had sleepovers, frequented multiple restaurants, all without masks. Do you know how many children died? Not one. But they made memories with their friends and stacked up some really great accomplishments, all without fear. You are teaching our children to live in fear. Wearing a mask every day in school not only inhibits their breathing of clean, fresh air, it also promotes fear of this virus that is not killing our children. Parents, if you choose to remove your children from this district, you will take $2,700 per child away from Parkland School District through Edgenuity. And if you remove them to go to charter schools, $8,500 per student will be taken from this district. Speak up, vote in November, and let your voices be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Joe Lucadamo.
Yeah, I can't look up at it. I thought they weren't allowed to.
Good evening. My name is Joe Lucadamo. I live in Dillon Drive in Allentown. I have students in Parkway Manor and Springhouse. I spoke last week. I do want to thank you for getting my name right twice. That usually doesn't happen. I do want to say I do appreciate the efforts of the board and the district for the revised health and safety plan. It is an evidence and science-based plan that is one that I think is based off of the input of local health experts who are qualified to make community health judgments. The plan is flexible, adapts to the circumstances as they exist on the ground, and because it is documented in advance, it allows us the ability as parents to plan ahead as to whether or not there's the possibility of a school closing, whether or not masks may be required at a given time, or what the quarantine guidelines may be. Having that spelled out in advance is very helpful. Knowing that the plan is ad hoc or could be decided arbitrarily makes it very difficult for parents who work to make arrangements to be home with their kids if the school were to close, or to go to a hybrid model, or other circumstances. So that clear documentation is very helpful for us who need to do that sort of planning to make sure we have a game plan with our kids. I lost my notes. Lastly, I think the plan does foster a bit of a we and not I approach to make sure that we as a group and a community in Parkland all work together to ensure that we can keep our kids in school full time. I think that that's a very healthy attitude for the kids to see, that we all have to work to do something we may not necessarily want to do, but to ensure that we can meet our goals, which is to be in school full time and try to minimize the impact that COVID has on our kids. And I do think that, as some have said this evening, we're all looking forward to this situation being over. I don't think anybody is a huge fan of having to wear a mask on a regular basis, but it is something that we've been asked to do to help mitigate risk for those who are exposed. And I think that this plan helps us continue to move in that direction and gives us a way out, hopefully, in the long term. So again, thank you for the efforts and listening to the feedback and putting a structured plan in place so we can all follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Amy Ensinger.
Good evening. I'm Amy Ensinger. I reside on Market Street in South Whitehall Township. I don't really have anything special prepared tonight except to say thank you. This has been a very long few weeks over the summer. We recognize that it has been a very difficult task that you have been faced with, listening to all the parents speak at all of the meetings, countless emails, and other communications. But we wanted to let you know that we are grateful for the plan that you have put forward, that you have prioritized the health and safety of our children, and keeping our children in school, in person, 5 days a week is the ultimate goal, and we feel confident that this plan is going to help us do that. So again, I say thank you. We appreciate all the work that you have done to keep our children safe. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Patrick Carl.
Hello. My name is Patrick Carl, 4716 Shady Lane, Orfield. I'm a 1989 Parkland graduate. I had 3 children that went through Parkland, very proud of what they've done. I'm here tonight representing Schnecksville Playground Association. And I bring up myself and my children because throughout the years, myself and them have been involved in various sports, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, things like that, baseball, I play at the high school level. And part of the reason that Schnecksville does what they do when it comes to baseball, basketball, lacrosse, things like that, is getting the word out to parents, children, that we offer these things, offer these events, so they don't have to sit in front of a video game and do stuff. Be outside. This coming year, we were informed that the open houses that we've done for years to get the word out for these various activities are now going to cost us, Schnecksville, any Cub Scout or whatever, Girl Scouts, $500 to go to. The president, I'm currently the vice president of Schnecksville, SPA, and our president's not able to be here tonight, but we feel, and because of the 3 minutes, this is not gonna, I'm not gonna be able to read all this. We feel this is exorbitant. For an organization that at the end of the year may have $10 in their bank account after paying all registration fees, exorbitant basketball fees that we paid to Parkland School District for gym time, after everything's paid, to now say, oh, by the way, for you to set up a table at an open house at Kernsville, Ironton, wherever school you want to go to, is now going to cost us $500. I'll be quite frank with you, it is ridiculous. If you said, $50, I don't think we would have said a word. But your person, and I'm sorry I don't have, Ms. McGilla, who was in contact with us and had responded to an email from our president, basically saying this was something that was planned for, I forget the exact words, but it was a ridiculous statement there. But again, $500 for basically an hour to hour and a half of volunteers like myself and other members of our organization to stand there and talk to parents, talk to children about baseball, lacrosse, things like that that we could do, and whether it be Cub Scouts or anything.
Thank you.
Like that.
We will look into that, and if someone needs to get back to you, we have your information.
Thank you.
And it was my mistake, I took this out of order on the agenda. This was a non-agenda item, but there's only 2 more comments, so we're okay tonight. And the next speaker is Chris Parata.
Good evening, Chris Parata, live at 31st Street in Allentown, have 3 daughters in elementary school. I just wanted to take a moment today to thank you all for your decision that was based in science and data with a plan that can evolve and adjust as the data changes. Nobody wants to be wearing a mask in all of these buildings or in school. We want to, get rid of this whole situation. And I really appreciate the way you approached the process, reviewed it, talked with all the different agencies and hospitals and unions, and took all of that data into account when you made that decision. So I very much appreciate that, and thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. The last speaker tonight, Davidellowicz.
Good evening, Davidellowicz. I live in South Whitehall. I have in a week I'll have a 1st grader and a 5th grader. I'll follow Joe, Mr. Hine, in expressing my appreciation for getting my name right 3 times in a row. I just want a couple of comments very quickly, but thank you. I want to echo the efforts. Thank you for coming to what I feel is the right decision in this plan. I don't for 1 minute think that you guys, any of you, dismiss the concerns of the community. I know from my own experience and talking to others that many of you were responsive, listened to what we had to say, and we're concerned about folks who disagree with my position as well. And with that, I would also ask that Parkland think of itself as a leader this year. And I understand that Dr. Mattson, you being new, it's important to build consensus. And to the board, it's important to support Dr. Mattson and present a unified front. But we were late. I don't think we should be late. We're going to have difficult decisions this year. You're going to have loud, angry parents on both sides. But I think we've seen that you can deliberate, you have smart people, you have experts at your disposal. Let's be a leader in the year that's coming. And finally, just to the passion remarks that we're teaching fear. I think the lesson we should be teaching is that we're teaching it's important to listen to experts. It's important to listen to professionals who have spent their lives studying how to keep people safe, how to keep communities safe. You didn't listen to 1 person, 2 person. You didn't spend 20 minutes researching this on the internet. You talked to experts, and you said, we're going to listen to the experts, we're going to take their advice, and use your authority to keep our children safe, which is the most important issue. And the other thing, and this echoes a comment that really stuck with me last week, which is we're also teaching care for each other. By wearing a mask, yeah, I'm giving myself a little bit of protection, but I'm protecting all those folks around us. And I hope that some way we're able to have our teachers and the curriculum have a dialogue that includes discussion about what does community responsibility mean? Where is the right for me to put my fist under the tip of your nose? And what does that mean for taking care of a community? What does that mean about being part of a school district? So again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 6 on the agenda, approval of revision number 1 of Parkland School District Health and Safety Plan for the 2021-2022 school year. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the attached Parkland School District revision number 1 of the Health and Safety Plan for COVID-19 effective for school year 2021-2022, herein called the revision number 1 plan or plan. The revision number 1 plan shall be signed by the President of the School Board. Since the plan may be subject to further revision from time to time as required by changing circumstances or Commonwealth orders and guidance, The superintendent of schools is hereby authorized to implement changes to the plan as necessary, and thereafter, when required by the nature of the changes, may submit a revision of the plan for review and approval by the school board. This revision, number 1, plan shall be distributed electronically to all school district staff and parents, guardians, students, and posted on the district website. If I may have a motion.
So moved.
And a second.
Second?
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
I have a comment.
Mrs. Ziegler?
So this amendment to the health and safety plan relies heavily on local data and numbers, but it also allows for the administration to be more cautious at specific buildings if needed, and to remain in a tier until our local conditions change. I really like the many factors that will be considered in making a determination of what tier we will be in. On a different note, as Dr. Madsen pointed out, the quarantine parameters have changed. I think it's important to emphasize that when all students are masked and have been exposed to a COVID positive student, none of the students in class are considered close contacts, and so there is no need for the students to quarantine and miss in-person instruction. This is different than last year. Last year, if students were within 6 feet of a COVID positive student for 15 minutes or longer, then they had to quarantine even though they were both wearing masks. Maintaining the consistency of education is equally as important as keeping students safe. Many parents have asked if we have ever had to wear a mask for 7 or 8 hours straight for 180 days. I have. I taught first grade last year, full-time, in person, 5 days a week, with masks worn all day except lunch and social distancing of 6 feet. I swore I was going to struggle big time with making sure kids kept their masks on, while also somehow trying to teach them how to read with my own mask on. I figured it would be a logistical nightmare for kids so little, but they were troopers, and to my surprise, there were no major issues. Kids brought extra masks, and I had extras too if they forgot. But there really wasn't the kind of pushback I was expecting. Somehow, it all worked out once we got in that classroom together. It wasn't the easiest year by any means, but we made it through the year, and most of them learned how to read. There were only 2 students who, while they made significant gains, they did not meet the end-of-year benchmark. I mention this because those students each missed 20-plus days of school last year due to a combination of quarantines and family emergencies. So when I consider which will be a bigger disruption to a child's learning, masking or extended lengths of time out of school, it is crystal clear to me that the latter provides the greatest barriers to academic success. In short, the amendment to the health and safety plan allows for the greatest chance that students will have the continuity of instruction that ultimately will lead to success. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to number 7, Personnel and Finance Committee, Mrs. Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. Starting with item 7.01, personnel items, and I would like to take these all as one motion. Resignations, retirements, items A through D. Request for extension of child-rearing leave of absence, item A. Change of status, items A and B. Employment of personnel, items A through P. And approval of the day-to-day substitute list for administrators, professionals, guest teachers, support staff, food services, school services, and transportation. And we have that attachment there, that's item A. And I so move that item.
Thank you. If I could have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? I do have a comment. Pursuant to Pennsylvania's public official and employee ethics law, I hereby declare that I am required to abstain regarding the following issue in motion: personnel items. My conflict or reason for abstaining is as follows. My daughter is being recommended as a day-to-day substitute for the district. Thank you.
I believe this is a typo that was going to be fixed. I think it's item P under employment of personnel. I think there's a discrepancy in the effective date. I think it says August 25th here, but on the attachment that we received, the effective date was August 24th. So I just want to make sure that we clarify that.
Thank you. We will make that change. Any other comments? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 7.02, these are the board policies for second reading and approval.
and those, we had the policies since last week. Second reading and approval of the following policies: 146.1, Programs, Trauma-Informed Approach; 218.1, Students, Weapons; 218.2, Students, Terroristic Threats; 236.1, Students, Threat Assessment; 247, Students, Hazing; 249, Students, Bullying, Cyberbullying; and 805, Operations, Emergency Preparedness. And I so move those items for second reading and approval.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 7.03, the committee recommends that the school board adopt the attached resolution for the purpose of issuing general obligation bonds in the maximum aggregate principal amount of $12 million to refund all or a portion of the school district's outstanding general obligation bonds, Series A of 2017, in accordance with the parameters set forth in the resolution. And I make that motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Fasciano. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 7.04, it is recommended that John A. Vignon be elected as board secretary for the Parkland School District for a 4-year term effective July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2025, and I so move.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That carries.
Item 7.05, it is recommended that Leslie P. Frisbee be elected as board secretary for the Parkland School District to fill a vacancy created by the retirement of John A. Vignon for the duration of his unexpired term effective August 25th, 2021 to June 30th, 2025, and I so move.
Thank you. And second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 7.06, the administration recommends the board approve a bond for the Secretary of the Board of School Directors for a term of August 25th, 2021 to August 24th, 2022, in the amount of $50,000 underwritten by Travelers Insurance Companies with Myers-Benner Corporation serving as local agent at an annual premium of $123 in accordance with sections 431 and 409 of the school code, and I so move.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 7.07, it is recommended that Leslie P. Frisbee be appointed as the District Open Records Officer effective August 25th, 2021, and I so move.
Thank you. And second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 7.08, it is recommended that Assistant Director of Business Administration be appointed as the alternate trustee on behalf of the Parkland School District to the Healthcare Benefits Consortium, and I make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 7.09, it is recommended that Leslie P. Frisbee be appointed as the district's primary delegate for the Lehigh Tax Collection Committee, and I so move.
Thank you. And second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 7.10, it is recommended that Angel A. Green be appointed as the district's alternate delegate for the Lehigh Tax Collection Committee, and I so move.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 7.11, approval is recommended for the attached resolution to appoint Leslie P. Frisbee, Director of Business Administration, as the district liaison between the school district and the tax officer, Berkheimer Tax Administrator, for the express purpose of sharing confidential tax information for official purposes or as provided by law, and I so move.
Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
And that concludes Personnel and Finance, Mr. Hine.
Thank you, Mrs. Roth. Item number 8, Clinical Education Experience Contract. The administration recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to sign the attached clinical experience contract and addendum between Misericordia University and Parkland School District to establish at Parkland School District a practicum or student teaching center for Misericordia students enrolled in their teacher education program. The agreement provides for a term of 1 year and will be automatically renewed annually unless otherwise indicated in writing. If I could have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 9, appointments to South Whitehall Township Parks and Recreation. The administration recommends that Jessica Beller and Terry Horn be appointed as a member of the Board of Directors of South Whitehall Township Parks and Recreation Board for a term of 5 years. And if I could have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to reports, the Parkland Library has not met yet, so we'll
We have our meeting this Thursday, so I will have the report next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 1002, Parkland Education Foundation, Ms. Fasciano.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. The Education Foundation Board of Directors did meet on Thursday, August 19th. It was the first meeting of this current year. We are now in our 10th year of the Ed Foundation. We discussed the growth of the Ed Foundation and how far we've come from the very first year. A few things that I want to point out from the meeting. Last year, we issued 51 grants to people that submitted the grant requests in a total of over $113,000 with the money raised with the foundation. Another key point that I think everybody should know for this year, they are going to broadcast the athletics, all the home games for all the teams, so that anybody that can't attend, or if you have relatives that don't live close by, they can watch the game. It's a great opportunity to our teams that people can watch them and support them. It's also a tremendous opportunity to our TV studio here at the high school and the students that run that program and are working the whole thing from beginning to end. It's an amazing experience. Going forward, if that's a career they choose, they've definitely had a great background in that area. So I was happy to hear that they could do that again. The golf tournament, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, is October 1st at Brookside Country Club. As of Thursday, we had 48 golfers registered. Deadline for registration is September 22nd. And I think that was all the highlights, and that ends my report.
Thank you. Are there any other reports tonight? Moving on to accounts payable, item number 11, approval of accounts payable for 2020-2021. If I could have a motion? Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Hine,
Yes, Mr. Foos.
my yes vote does not reflect my support for the payment to cyber charter schools due to the inequity in the funding for the public education. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
Please let the record show that I'm in agreement with Mr. Foos. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 11.02, approval of accounts payable for 2021-2022. If I could have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 12, public comment on non-agenda items. We had the one earlier, and thank you for that. Moving into roundtable, I will kick us off tonight and just want to say thank you to the administration and the staff and this board for the careful consideration of the update to the health and safety plan. It is not something that is going to please everybody, and certainly no one wants to be wearing masks all day, but we're doing this for the betterment of the children, the health and safety of the children and the staff and the community at large. So thank you for your efforts on that. I was happy to attend today the opening day ceremonies for the teachers and the staff, and that was it's always a good highlight and a great event to start out the year. So congratulations, and best wishes for a great year for all of the staff. To the members of the public who have come out again tonight, thank you. We appreciate your comments on both sides of this topic, the health and safety plan, and other topics. So please continue to be informed. Please continue to communicate with us, whether it's phone calls, emails, or coming to these meetings. And lastly, Mr. Vignon, we can't let this night go by without saying thank you for all your years, 44 years of dedicated service to public education, the last 15 being here in Parkland. Your financial acumen, your guidance, your help for us to understand things at the board level, whether we have a financial background or not, is second to none. You have done this district a great service. Your adherence to all the policies and making sure that all of our audits go well, making sure that all of our finances are in top shape, and that we can offer the excellent programs that we do here at Parkland for all of the students and for the community at large. We thank you for that. Please enjoy your retirement. Mr. Wold.
Yes, thank you. Speak without the mask because sometimes it doesn't come through very well. Mr. Vignon, in my long and storied career as an educator, you certainly stand out at the top of business administrators. There's a lot of children in Parkland got a better education because you kept a good rein on the expenses and the outgoing money, and you did a heck of a job, and we thank you for it. To the public, I want to thank you for your good behavior this evening. I believe you've all read some other districts don't quite have that good reputation. So again, I thank you for your behavior. We can be Parkland proud. Thank you.
Mrs. Ziegler.
So first, thank you to the administration for their carefully thought out mask matrix. Also, welcome back to the teachers. You are the reason that every year, but especially last year, was successful, and I wish you all the best this coming school year. And also John Vignon. I wanted to start with a quote from Taylor Swift because she's my favorite. And it seems relevant. So she says, no matter what happens in life, be good to people. Being good to people is a wonderful legacy to leave behind. We all recognize John's many accomplishments and are so grateful for his expertise and leadership. But I also want to mention how patient and kind John has been. The budget has never been my strong suit, but John is wonderful at breaking down financial information into simple terms and always patiently answering questions. Explaining a complex topic in simple terms is no easy task, but John always made it seem effortless. So while I will always appreciate John's wisdom and insight, I will also always remember his kindness and patience. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Mrs. Roth?
Thank you. With regards to the revisions to the health and safety plan, Mr. Hine, you said it perfectly. Mrs. Ziegler, thank you very much for your comments when we were doing the vote. It expressed a lot of what I personally was feeling throughout this whole thing, and we truly appreciate it. We appreciated all the input that we got. We heard from healthcare advisors, as was said, everyone that we went out to, including the public, to everyone that had come to meetings, sent us emails, phone calls. We appreciated all the information, and everything is being considered as we move forward here. And that's the important piece, is to move forward. Opening day, I was also at opening day this morning, and that was nice. That was great. It was great to see all the teachers and let them know that we stand behind them as well. And I think a lot of times we forget our teaching staff. They're in these buildings as well. So I know that we're concerned, and we're concerned for the students, but we also have to consider our staff. And that's why I think we're keeping everybody in the forefront on that. John, 12 years ago, when I was considering, at the time, running for school board, the one thing that was going to stop me was I was scared out of my mind because I said, no, I'm not as financial savvy. I don't know. I was really worried about that. That was going to stop me. Literally was going to stop me. And I remember Roberta Marcus saying to me at the time, she says, no, she says, you'll be fine. We had this business manager. He's the sweetest person. He has a background in teaching. He'll help you. That turned out to be the understatement of the the decade, because, you have just been wonderful. I know Roberta pulled some strings too to make sure that I sat next to you when I first came on the board, and that was the best seat in the house, because I constantly, nudging you and, psst, little questions, I'd slide you a note, like, I don't understand what this line item is. I couldn't have gotten through and gotten to the point where I can understand budgets and financial statements, parameters resolutions, without your help. Thank you so very much. I have my copy that I have laminated that I carry in my purse of your blue card. The blue card is at home. I had that literally in a frame on my desk at home. So if I get any questions and everything, I go to that blue card, and this is my purse copy. And my favorite thing next to you is my information card. So thank you so much for everything that you've done to help me personally, but certainly to help all of Parkland. Thank you.
Mrs. Kester.
I wish you the best, John.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen.
My comments are directed to Mr. Vignon. Mr. Hines spoke well of many of your wonderful attributes. I wish you all the best in your retirement. I thank you for your professionalism, and I thank you for the level of integrity that you've set as a high standard for our district. Big shoes to fill. I know we'll have good personnel to follow in the shape that you define what a business manager should be. So your legacy will continue. And on the top of the list is the integrity that you've brought to the position. And I thank you very much. Best wishes.
Mr. Foos.
I just want to first start out with saying that the opening convocation for the teachers was beyond outstanding. During the keynote address, I laughed at the funny parts, I smiled with joy, and I also shed tears of sorrow when I heard some of the sad remarks. It was one of the best, if not the best, keynote address I ever heard in my entire life, and it should inspire and motivate our outstanding teachers at Parkland to have an incredible year. Parkland pride all the way on that. One thing, though, that was said at that event that I think rings true with Mr. Vignon is that he always put people first. I always say it. I always looked at Mr. Vignon as a mentor. I, too, struggled with financial numbers, and if it weren't for Mr. Vignon and some of the members on the board, but especially Mr. Vignon, I don't know how long it would have taken me to train for the position, like on the onboarding process. He really cut the time in half. He made it very simple to understand. Any question, wasn't too dumb. And I'm really gonna miss him. He was an outstanding advocate for the taxpayer dollars and an astute public servant, never forgetting his past as an educator. So thank you so much for everything you've done for Parkland, for the administrators, and for the community. You will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Perlin McKenna.
Thank you. I had comments prepared, but I chose not to say them because Marissa said them very well regarding the health and safety plan revision. But I do think the tool that was developed is very helpful. It outlines a number of important guiding metrics and considerations for helping us decide how and when we may adapt to our situation as it continues to evolve. I think we need to do whatever we can and pull together as a community as our kids come back to school to do all we can to keep them in school, learning in person, safely, with consistency. I have faith that our community will rally around this common goal and will focus now on helping to make the best of a situation that no one asked for, no one likes, for the sake of our kids. I want to thank all the parents in attendance this evening, as well as those who have shared their views, their emails, information, links, charts with all of us via email. It shows how much parents in our community care, and I really appreciate that. I also had the good fortune to attend opening day. I do want to thank everyone who helped organize and execute that. It was really a flawless event. I was very pleased to be there. I thank David, Rod, Michelle, Mark for your comments. I think you set the perfect tone. You highlighted expectations for the coming year and encouraged a continuation of everyone's hard work and dedication, which got us through this past year. And you had a focus on what matters most. It certainly matters to me, building relationships. Most importantly, relationships with our kids. That's going to be really key this year. So I really appreciated all those messages and the comments that supported the type of culture that we want to cultivate here in Parkland. I did want to comment, I thought the motivational speaker, Mr. Murray, was outstanding. Some things that stood out in my mind, he highlighted the importance of every teacher and every staff member. And the role that they play in the success of the district and helping our kids to achieve their educational success. He highlighted the impact that every adult can have on students' lives and encouraged everyone to do their best to make a difference every day. And I really liked his questions that he posed to the audience, primarily to the teachers, but really I think it's something that we can all think about. And that was, what will you do to make what will you do to make the kids want to return to the school the next day? And what will you do to positively influence each child's life? And then he ended with a great quote that I think everyone might want to think about. I think it's great to keep in mind, and that's that every child, really every person, is someone's whole world. So I think this morning was very inspirational, and I thank you. And I think that the whole idea of everyone's child, that every child is someone's whole world, it really factors in when we're thinking about what we're doing as a board and trying to keep our environment as safe as possible so everybody can come back and learn in a safe, consistent environment. Lastly, Mr. Vignon, bittersweet. I'm very sad that you're leaving, but I'm happy that you're going to have an opportunity to relax. I hope you'll relax and do some things. I know you find this very fun. I know you love your job, but I'm happy for you. And I'm very grateful for all you've done for the district and for your patience and assistance in helping me personally to do my job as a board member. Your dedication, passion, knowledge, and experience as our business administrator, as well as your ability to explain complex concepts so that they are easily understood, and to make budgeting pleasant as it can be for someone like me, is really unmatched. You are and have been such an incredible asset to our school district and the community, and I don't think most people realize the critical role that you've played in ensuring the financial health of our district through some of the most challenging times. As I referenced earlier to our speaker this morning, we heard about the importance of making an impact on others. And you've had an incredible impact on the education of thousands of kids over the many years that you've been at Parkland, because you were at the helm managing our precious resources and working with everyone to make sure they understood what they needed to do to make good decisions, working in concert with you. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to work with you and to learn from you. Congratulations and best wishes on your retirement, and I will miss you. Thank you. That's it.
Ms. Fasciano?
Thank you, Mr. Hine. I just want to thank everybody again for coming out tonight to voice your concerns, voice your opinions. We appreciate everybody that emails us, calls us, and attends a public meeting. So thank you. I have probably driven my family, any friends, crazy regarding this issue, getting their opinion, just bouncing ideas off of one another, anybody that I knew. And depending on when you grew up, this is going to be relevant or not relevant. Things like drinking and driving, texting and driving, using cell phones and driving, seat belts, which if you're my age, we did not have seat belts as children, didn't have it. Smoking in restaurants, which was relatively recent, helmets for bikes, car seats. All of these are laws that were put in place based on evidence-based on science and medicine. Did we like them all when they were put into mandates and laws? No. And did it take away our choice in some of the decisions we made? Yes. The difference between all of those items that I just mentioned and the health and safety plan we're putting in and mask mandated for children this year, these are all, the ones that I mentioned, they're all permanent. They're not going away. They were put into place to keep people 100% safe and alive. Is there a guarantee? No. Is a seatbelt going to save your life? Maybe not, but it was put in place for a reason. We're putting a health and safety plan in place. It might not last more than a month. It might last 2 months. Hopefully it's not the rest of our lives like these other issues that I brought up. So like I said, we have to be patient. One thing that I know brought up this morning, I was also at open meeting, collaboration. This district was incredible with collaboration last year between our building and grounds and our faculty and our staff and our technology department. We couldn't have functioned without collaboration. So the individual, and I think she left, that mentioned we don't have a medical background on the board, we don't. But we collaborate with people that do. We try to speak with the experts that know what they're talking about. And we base our decisions on the recommendations that they're giving us. Just like you would be going to your accountant, or if you would be going to an electrician, if they're going to give you guidance, you're going to hopefully follow the recommendations. The difference is those aren't life-threatening decisions. This is. So please be patient. Let's all just do the right thing. Masks are not easy. We were talking today, the logistics of masks in school, it is more difficult. The easy route would have been, we're not going to worry about it, but it's not the right decision. And trust me, if this district loses one staff member, one student, one family member at home, one visitor in the building, I will never regret the decision. I mean, I'll never live with myself if we decide not to do masks. We're doing our best. We're going on the science. Just please be patient. We're not going to please everybody, but that's okay. You know, some decisions you make are harder than others. So just be patient. The best for last is John. I wish you all the best in your retirement. I won't reiterate everything my colleagues have said about you. You're amazing. Your communication skill, your patience with us is incredible at budget seminar and all throughout the year. The good part that I feel confident is you built a really strong foundation in the business department. We know you did. You have good people in place. So Leslie's going to step in, and I think her job will be relatively not easy because we're not a small district and we're constantly growing, but I think the foundation's there and it's going to be easier to maintain. So I wish you the best. I am going to miss you. I love your presentations. You know, 2 of us on the board love numbers and we love the budget presentations, but enjoy your retirement. You've earned it. Thank you.
Mr. Miller.
My comments are to John tonight, and we've been together for a few years now. It's been a great ride. I've enjoyed working with you. I've learned a lot from you, and I greatly appreciate your analytical skills, and you're probably one of the most challenging administrators I've worked with because you ask questions, and I try my best to answer them. And hopefully I've answered them to your satisfaction because it's been quite a challenge, and I enjoy challenges. And it's an intellectual challenge and a professional challenge. So we had a great run. Thank you so much for all you've done, and keep reading those good books.
And Dr. Madsen.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. So I'll start with the best first. John, congratulations. You certainly have a gift for the spoken word You make those numbers come alive, and I've only known you for a couple months. I appreciate in that short amount of time your mentorship and your leadership, and you've put the district in such a wonderful place financially, obviously with the team, but you at the helm with the finances, and I appreciate that coming in as the superintendent, and also, you know, a very short amount of time, but I value the friendship that we've maintained here over a couple months, and I appreciate that. And I did find the Penske file for you. If you're looking for it, I got it. All right? So, Mr. Hine talked about opening day. Just mention that real quick. We're very fortunate. The staff really put together. We moved it from the auditorium to the gymnasium. We had some live streaming. We had a whole litany of things that had to take place, and the tech department, our grounds crew, the administration, the staff just did a wonderful job to even make it an event. And I think the staff, all the messages and emails that we received, they really appreciated the message. We were very fortunate to have Mr. Tom Murray here, who is a national speaker. He goes all over the country, and he's a Parkland parent and a Parkland resident, so that was really special for him to come today. His family was here with him, and his message was just out of the park. We were so very excited that he was able to do that, and I think the teaching staff is ready to go. For Monday, first day of school, building projects, Parkway Manor's all set, we'll be ready to go. Our Schnecksville project, we'll make sure that that's ready to go for our children. The roof at Kernsville, all of these things that have been going on to get ready for Monday, we're gonna be in great shape. So I know that we're thrilled and excited to start and have everyone come on Monday. It's gonna be a wonderful, wonderful day, wonderful start after a really tumultuous summer and year. And a lot of these things will start to dissipate a little bit when we see those boys and girls and all the kids coming in on Monday morning. Mr. Carl, we'll be in touch with you, okay, with your questions. So we'll make sure that someone from my office, Assistant Superintendent's office, will be in touch with you. And finally, I just want to talk about the health and safety plan real quick. First of all, appreciate the board's support on the revision. I know there was a comment earlier regarding the health and safety plan, and I don't remember exactly what it was. I'll review it to make sure that I don't get it wrong. On Thursday, the administrative team and as superintendent made the decision to send those revisions out and have those revisions effective as of Monday. And I just want to make sure the public understands that certainly this is a collective group with support from the board, but the administration gathered all of that evidence. We listened to the parents. We listened again to the parents. We continue to do that. The bottom line is this is not something we wanted to do, but given all of the evidence that we have, and I mean all of it, on both sides, all of the feedback that we've received, although it's a very difficult decision, it's very emotional, at the end of the day, on Thursday, sending that out was one of the easiest things I had to do because it was the right thing to do for right now. And it gives hope. It gives hope that over time we can relook at this data and we can come together to make decisions moving forward. And that's what's important. It wasn't just a blanket statement that we got to put masks on and they have to be everywhere. We focused it to inside only. We focused it to the, during the school day at times. We tiered out a metric. All of those things that I think puts us in a really good position as we move forward. No one's happy to have to start on Monday with masks, trust me. I speak as a parent myself with three children, two of which are school age. It's not something that anyone is looking forward to. But given what we know now and the evidence that we're getting from our medical experts, it's the decision we need to make for right now. We appreciate all of the parents coming in, all of the community to come speak at board meetings, contact us through email, phone calls. We listen. We listen again. We listen over and over. We debate it. We talk about it. None of these decisions are made lightly. And the bottom line is, we, as adults, we set the tone for everything that will happen for our kids. We set the right tone for Monday moving forward, and it's going to be a great school year. Once again, I appreciate the board's support on the revision. Thank you to the public for being here this evening. John, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll now move to adjournment for executive session for personnel and litigation. If I could have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The next school board meeting and some upcoming meetings, the September committee meetings, personnel and finance, buildings and grounds, academics, arts and athletics, all on September 13th at 5, 6, and 7 p.m. And September board meetings, September 21st with the workshop at 7, business meeting at 8, and September 28th with the business meeting at 7. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
All right, we're going to go into
John's coming to exec.